Heart First leadership isn't what you say, it's how you show up, how you regulate, how you communicate, and how you execute when it matters most. We are Heidi and Ryan Sawyer, and you are listening to the Heart First Leadership Podcast.
Welcome, Integrated Performance Podcast. Today, I'm super excited to introduce to you one of my main mentors, friends, colleagues, buddies, all the way around. You know, when I first started to really uncover and look inward and to say that there's more than to life than, or more to transformation than physical transformation, Ken Close is the first place that I went to. I said, there's something that you know that I need to know. There's just a vibration coming from this man. I'm like, I got to figure this out. I got to sit down with this guy and find out what's going on. So I want to introduce Ken. He's a father, a husband. He's an electronics engineer by trade in his discovery in the past. He has studied epigenetics and neuroscience. He's also a former martial arts instructor, and current date, what all those things that led him to is to be an epigeneer specialist, which we're going to hear about what that means. So welcome, Ken. Thank you for being here. And we're excited to dive in and have a conversation about what makes change possible today. But first, before we do that, I would love just to hear from you, kind of what got you to this place in your life where you have dedicated, and I mean dedicated your life to understanding change, transformation, evolution, adaptation, right, of the human experience. And just want to hear from you, like what got you to this place today?
Wow. Well, thanks, Ryan. I so appreciate the introduction and the opportunity to share with you today. I'm humbled by it as well as energized by it. And, you know, I remember that question. I felt that question in you energetically. And I remember the day it was a presentation of performance nutrition. I was in the world of integrated performance nutrition, and I just got done doing a talk on stage. And I was introduced to you, and your intensity, your draw, your curiosity was just unmeasurable. And you said, I mean, I felt it. You're just like, who are you? I felt this, who are you? I introduced myself. Yeah, I'm Ken Close. I'm this, nutritionist. No, you said, no, who are you? And I'm like, okay, this guy wants to seek. He's a seeker. He wants to know. And so I said, you really want to know? Okay, buckle up. So we went down some fun journeys together, and I loved it. It's been a great expression of what's possible when somebody's truly a seeker and hungry for the discovery of truth. And so thank you for that connection. And I'm very humbled and honored to have been on that journey with you. My journey has been just, as almost as specific as what yours has been. When you ask the question, is there more? Hang on, because if you're true to your heart, when you ask that question, there's going to be a very quick realignment of energy, and synchronicities start to explode. And it doesn't mean that you're going to get rainbows and butterflies. It means that you're going to get challenged to go beyond your typical thought patterns, and everything that you believe is true will be on the chopping block. So it's like, okay. So I've owned a brick and mortar business for 25 years in the fitness industry. As you mentioned, I'm an electronics engineer by trade. It's just, I specialize in the fitness industry and the nuts and bolts of creating better health for humans. I have studied nutrition. I've been in the martial arts practice since my military days of air combat. And I moved forward in that training to become an instructor and taught for over 2 decades. And my classes were up to like 100 people, 100 students. And my grandmaster told me one thing. He says, the teacher is typically only one step ahead of the student. So all of the humans that we're interacting with is like, sometimes just the little nugget that we know is the one step ahead of the person that's looking for it. And that moves them into their next evolution. And you never know what a smile is going to do for somebody, right? Let alone a nugget of wisdom. So I continued down that rabbit hole of investigation, and one day, I mean, my business is 15 years old. I've got employees. I've got, a store facility. I'm covering like 4 states in the Pacific Northwest, and so it's rocking. It's doing good, and yet, so I'm the guy that quits my job, starts a business, and buys a house in the same month. I'm that kind of guy. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, let's put it on the line and either succeed or learn lessons. So, I mean, I don't believe in failure. I believe we have a whole lot of lessons.
We'll make that a different podcast. We'll go down
exactly.
You know how I believe too, that failure is an illusion. So I appreciate you saying that. So we'll go that rabbit hole another time. So anyway, continue.
I'm in. So the moment that things start to go smooth and they're like seemingly, I'll be honest, complacent, right? I mean, we're in one of 2 states of energy, growing or dying. I mean, increase or decrease. People want this state of stability and normalcy. And that the problem with that is it's such an immeasurable point in time. There is no stability. It's either growing or dying, and we're either increasing or decreasing. And so I got to a point where I thought everything was rocking. Success is fun. It's great. It feels good. But there's always more, right? And that's not because it's greed. It's because of the hunger, the thirst for discovery, for the next level. And so it has nothing to do with greed. It has nothing to do with money, to be honest with you. I mean, it has nothing to do with success. Is the universal law of compensation is we are compensated to the level of our service. Not our bank account. It has nothing to do with that. Right. So,
and fundamentally, we're not to cut you off, but fundamentally, we are systems that are designed to grow. Like the universe is expanding, right? We are evolutionary adaptive systems as a human being, right? So you're either embracing that and finding that resistance to continue to grow and adapt and become more resilient, or you're not. And so balance is this constant moving point. There's never one place, right? And if you try to find balance or create balance in your life, it's like walking a tightrope. It's not going to work, right? But if you push yourself to different plateaus and levels in different areas of your life, and you challenge everything then balance can actually be slipped into at times, right? These moments where you're like, oh, everything in my life seems to kind of feel right and fit, and I'm walking with ease down this sidewalk rather than trying to balance on a tightrope. So I'm 100% with you, Ken.
The better we get at manifestation or creating an outcome, literally creating our lives on purpose, the better we get at that. Even though it's a surprise, even though it may be seemingly a synchronicity, we already know our abilities. And so these intentions become realities. So it's not really, I mean, it's what you already intended anyway. It's just most people are doing it by default or accident. They don't really put a very creative intention on the table and engineer it into possibility. So that's me. I engineered things, and that's kind of what happened to me along my journey. I just, this complacency or this comfort, we can call it balance. I got to a point where I didn't feel the growth that I wanted. And so one day I stood in my kitchen, I put my hands in the air. I just kind of looked up, as we kind of think of the higher self. And I said, I surrender. I give up my ego, my beliefs, my perceptions, mold me. And it was from the heart. I mean, there was nothing coming from the ego or the root center or survival. I didn't need anything more to survive. I just, as far as money or success or the business, I didn't need anything there. What I needed was another level of understanding. And watch out, because when you ask that question from the heart, when you ask that question with dignity and authenticity, the universe will shift on its axis to meet that question. Is there more? And it did. That was a Tuesday when I asked that question. On a Thursday, my life went all over the place. And I was introduced to a new way of thinking, a new way of being. Mentors showed up in my life. When the student is ready, the teacher will appear. That's a statement, but I want to clarify that there's more to it. We've heard this before. When the student is ready, the teacher will appear. But let me expand on that complete Tao statement. It goes like this. When the student is ready, the teacher will appear. But when the student is ready, the teacher will disappear. There's a moment in which we become the teacher. The student becomes the master. And we're always just one step ahead of the student. So now what's our job? Now our job is to take that and give back.
We are all leaders. If you're ready to stop waiting and start impacting your environment in a powerful way, we want to connect with you. Click the Book Now link in the show notes to book a call with a Heart First coach and discover what Heart First leadership can look like in your life and in your environment. Now back to the show.
I remember one of the main things you taught me a long time ago as we started to really sit down. So we sat down every single week and we did these masterminds, right? And we'd meet for coffee. And my life was not actually, that was not an easy thing for me to pull off. Like I had to pull myself away. I mean, I was spraying a house because I was doing my residential painting company, and I'd show up covered in paint and sit down at a coffee shop. And for an hour and a half, we would challenge everything. And we would go into this place of complete unknown and discovery and talk about, everything, right? From epigenetics to cell reproduction to neuroscience and how all this lens towards transformation. My mind every single week was just expanding at incredible rates. And so one of those components that you talked about was you're now at a place where if you want to master this knowledge and this experience to make it fully integrated into your life, you got to teach it, right? Find a way to teach it. And so that's what actually led me down the path of saying, okay, well, I really didn't want to be a coach. I really didn't want to do what I'm doing now. I thought I didn't want to do this, but in all reality, it just led me to it because I wanted to continue this journey of growth and of just evolving, which then turned naturally into service and naturally turned into me wanting to teach and coach and mentor because of your guidance to say, well, to really master it, to really understand it, you got to be able to teach it because you'll then recognize where the holes are, right?
I love that, right? It is a natural process, so that's the most important thing I believe. This is the reason why I taught martial arts. This is the reason what I'm doing now as an epigeneer master. I'm not talking about just a little bit. I'm talking about, when you truly surrender and allow the divine to take hold. What happens is there's a very distinct heart opening. And you mentioned something about some of the struggles in finding time. And you're right. You showed up covered in paint. And I'm like, Ron, brother, you're here. That's all that matters. The wrapping is irrelevant. And your mind is here and present. And that was it. And that was what it took. And in the masculine, there's a very limited perception about heart, about vulnerability, about surrender. And that limited perception says that no, can't do that. And the moment we open our heart, then the soul can peer out a wider lens. And this is the key. That's what the heart is, where the soul views and guides and helps you. And the heart is what really knows. The brain thinks, but the heart knows. And so this drives us to do crazy stuff sometimes, right? Because you finally start listening to your heart. And when I did that surrender process, books came to me, mentors came to me, teachers came to me, and I dug in fully. I surrendered 100%, and I dug in fully and said, you know what? I'm going to give this all of me and get rid of my old structures and see what unfolds. And things unfolded like crazy. I started to do a lot of work with Dr. Joe Dispenza, many live events with him. And really he was the stimulus, the catalyst to take me down the neuroscience part. I'm already an analytical scientist, the engineer brain already had that component, but I had to work on how to surrender even that. And we typically define ourselves by what we know. Right. So if we are in the state of discovery, and the requirement for the ultimate true discovery is to release what we know, that's pretty scary. right? That's a place that's tough to surrender sometimes because that identity is attached to all of that content, including maybe our success or the way that how are we going to feed the family? How are we going to pay the bills? And I literally within 5 years of that moment, I shut down my business. I shut down my martial arts practice. I opened myself up for discovery. I was linked to an amazing quantum physicist / monk. I was offered the opportunity to open this expansive awareness around what's possible in technology in the United States. And it's like, the entire time this was happening, my heart was saying yes, and my head was saying no. That's too scary. Don't do this. How are you going to pay the bills? How are you going to feed the family? How are you going to pay the mortgage? I'm like, but my heart says we got this. So I'm like, okay. So I followed that course. In fact, I even once upon a time I was in a state, I got my car repossessed. I was so
I remember that
down in like everything. I'm thinking, oh my God, I got to go get a job. I got to get it. I got to do something. And it's like, nope, keep this heart going, man. And it was worth it because the knowledge, the deep understanding, and we'll go down a little bit of the epigenetic understanding a little bit down that rabbit hole. But that's kind of who I am and how I progressed.
I love it. So there's a handful of things I wrote down. We have to be careful to not rabbit a hole too big of a hole, because you'll be back. And I want to stay with this question that we came into of what makes change possible. And one of the things I heard you say, and then you illuminated to this in the experience of what you experienced when you actually did surrender. And I'm not going to try to put an answer in your mouth here, but I'm going to ask you that question in just a moment. I want to first, though, highlight something that when we start to deconstruct what we think we know, like this is the very thing that happened to me when I was led to have conversations with you, which opened up all kinds of other doors, right? Of all the other trainings and certifications I went through, from, unbeatable mind to Q process to meditation instructors. And I mean, a plethora of mentors that now I consider friends. It was the moment when I realized what I think I know is not working, right? And that there has to be something that I don't know. And so then it was this complete turn of a screw, the shift that said, I'm now going from really attaching and identifying with what I think I know, right? And I have plenty of credibility. I mean, national champion coach, football coach, blah, 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 whatever, right? But to go, I don't know anything. Like, I am way more every single day, and to this day still, way more curious about what I don't know. Yeah. And to explore that. And here's the interesting piece. There's a little bit of simple brain science, is that anything that is unknown, your brain is going to process that as a threat.
Yep.
Right. So the moment you say, I wonder what I don't know, your brain's going to go, be careful.
Yep.
Be careful. But if you can stay in this open stance, the surrender stance, and legitimately it's a stance too. There's a breath that's coordinated with it. There's a posture that's coordinated with it. There's, even where your arms are, where your chin is, where your gaze is. There's something happening here physically and mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, what then leads you to answers, right? Leads you to answers when you just ask a powerful question with an open-ended, like saying, I'm not going to actually look for the answer. The answer is going to just come to me, right? So like, what else is possible? How is this for me? How does this lead to growth? But what we're talking about is like, what is it that I don't know? So with that lead in, I'm just wanting to highlight your story. To me, is that experience of being more curious about what you don't know, surrendering to the unknown. Your brain, what you're saying is going, but, and your heart's going, I just know this is something there. You're feeling your way into your future. So what is it, based upon your story, based upon what you now currently know and what you help people do with their lives, right? What is it fundamentally? Just like, let's stay on one path here as much as we can. What makes change possible? What is it that makes it able for somebody to change who they are fundamentally? Mm-hmm. Which there was a time in my life, Ken, right? And you know this, that I said, you are who you are.
Yep.
It is what it is. Right. And I was incredibly solidified in that. I was an irritable, roller coaster, intense, frustrated, impatient human being for the majority of my life. And I'm, constantly growing, but I would say I'm pretty much the exact opposite of that individual. I'm still have a lot of energy. I'm still wound up, but I, much more patient than I used to be. And I legitimately changed the whole entire way I see the world and myself in it and the experience of it. Right. So what is it that makes, like, fundamentally, what makes change possible?
You're spot on, because the moment I met you, I felt that intensity, and that was then. And there's been definitely a shift. I mean, we get a chance to spend time together every now and then, and it's like, definitely. I mean, I know that, and I go to 10,000 feet, and I look at the landscape of life. I don't operate from the trenches of our day-to-day thing. I mean, the body might be doing X, Y, Z, but the mind, my awareness, and the fundamental part is our awareness. As we start to expand awareness, as we start to expand, and like you said, what we don't know, what we do know, and what we don't know, it's all part of the awareness. It's part of the equation of this awareness. And you can't really explain awareness. It's just a state. It's just a way of being. And the moment that we start to open this awareness and just be, again, curious, I use my hack. I'm going to give you my secret, everybody. My hack is curiosity. Mm-hmm. It's not analytics. It used to be, right? The analytical mind. If I know who I am, and that's it. It analyzes everything based on that one part of the equation. We miss a whole bunch because fundamentally we are still subjective to that opinion. And you're right. The brain says this, and this is neuroscience. Neuroscience says that the subconscious says safe or unsafe 3 times per second. Mm-hmm. Safe, not safe, safe, not safe. Everything, whether it be a sunset or an email, it doesn't matter. The subconscious is evaluating everything. And the reticular activating system, this is a bundled neurological interface between the brain and the body. 400 billion bits of information going through that superhighway. And it's a super wide bandwidth of content. It's like parallel, everything at once. 400 billion bits of information per second. But we, as a consciousness, as an awareness, can only process about 2,000 of those bits. Now, 400 billion, my arms are stretched really wide. You can't see it on screen or hear it on the radio. 400 billion bits is the overall awareness. But what we have in the conscious awareness is only 2,000 bits. And this conversation you and I are holding right now is consuming up to 1,300 of those bits. So have you ever had to try to have 2 conversations at once? Now you know why you can't, because that exceeds the 2,000 bits of awareness that we can actually comprehend and interface with.
Will you come over and explain that to my family? Because I'm not joking to you. My wife's talking to me. My daughter's asking me a question, and my son's trying to show me something. And it's not at least a half a dozen times a day where I'm like, you guys, I can only have one conversation at a time. Right. Yeah. And maybe I should explain some neuroscience to them to help them understand, like, you have to talk to daddy one at a time. Exactly. And this is the thing we want. We want to be able to multitask. We want to be able to be more efficient. We want to be all these things, but from the conscious mind, we can't do that. That's not where it works. 97%. Well, if you're good at it, 97% of what's going on is a adaptive organism. It's adaptive to the environment, and it's influenced by the environment. So when it comes to epigenetics, when it comes to the genetic code, the actual expression of the cell, only 3% of that expression is actually ancestral or part of the equation for that genetic code to become a skin cell or a bone cell, make the expression for that. So 3% of it's fixed is what I'm hearing. 3% of it's fixed. Okay. 97% is adaptive, reading the environment to find out to what degree, to what kind, to what value, to what ability do I build myself into this existence. The cell itself, this is at the fundamental level of you. From a vibrational frequency signature. This is the signature of the cell. From a expression of the cell. Mm-hmm. And so what's the 97% reading? What's the environment? The environment of the cell is the interior of you.
And the interior of you is influenced by energy. Everything is energy. Everything is frequency. And a skin cell versus a bone cell, the differentiation is its frequency. I can speak to a bone cell through certain vibrational frequency content. I can speak to a skin cell. We have technology now that can actually pinpoint a system, an organ, a cell, and speak to it and interface with it and actually find coherent frequencies to raise its value and build a better organism. So that 97% of the adaptive gene is reading energy, and everything is energy. So a thought that you have is energy. And the moment you have a thought of unworthiness, the moment you have a thought of jealousy, the moment you have a thought of anger, despair, or grief, that thought propagates an energy, and 800,000 cells per second are being created under that energetic expression. Right now, and right now, and right now, every second, 800,000 cells. And if I'm angry, I'm building a legion of cells to show that the body can handle anger. It's prepared for the environment. And you just have a body that orbits and orchestrates its environment looking for anger because it fits that cell receptor better.
So what I'm hearing, is try to simplify this just a little bit, is I've heard this from you before, and you can explain this 10 times better than I can. So I'm always learning something new and deepening my knowledge within this idea of change and transformation from the cellular level, right? Is the more I basically rehearse a certain experience, and you're using the example of anger, the more I'm conditioning my body to feel more anger in the future. Does that sound about right? And then I'm actually expecting that things, so there's a level of conditioning and then expectations that I'm actually expecting that this next moment is going to bring me more anger. Is that a simplistic way of putting it? Does that make sense?
100%. Because
Okay.
we mentioned earlier in the conversation that, the discovery of change is uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Or change, or even trying to investigate what we don't know, that's uncomfortable. But what is comfortable is what we know. And so the same thing on the genetic expression, if it's expressing cellular biology, this is biology that is comfortable with anger, then the body will flourish in an angry environment. Now, when I say flourish, understand that flourishing from an angry perspective is a low vibration. So in other words, what flourishes in low vibration is disease, disorder. So disease, disorder, and chaos will be your body's environment for flourishing. I mean, this is why some people are sick often, because they're flourishing, their body's flourishing and coherent with low vibration signals to build a poorly designed body. Now,
So that means then if I can find a way to experience, to surrender, allow myself to experience what we would consider to be a vibration of joy or peace, love, even just acceptance, right? Whatever that may look like for you. Would that mean that I would be able to condition my body into experiencing more of those things in the future as well?
100%. Because if the former is true on low vibration frequency and expression of the biology, then the latter is true. A higher expression of energy and a higher expression of vitality within the body. So absolutely. And in fact, when we're looking at performance, when we're looking at increasing performance of the body, the mindset of during the action or activity. So in other words, you go to the workout, you go to the gym and you work out because I just got to work off some of this energy. I'm just so angry. I'm so mad. I had a fight with my spouse or whatever. And I go in the gym with that. I'm building muscle structure that can handle the load of the weight. However, it's an agitated system consuming energy. We have a finite amount of energy for health and repair. And if we're consuming it with low vibration frequencies or emotions, then the efficiency goes down. And we just rob energy from the repair, recovery, and growth so that we can be in survival.
Yeah. Okay. And then from an egoic level, I'm just connecting a few dots as you're talking, because there's some other stuff that I'm studying about, like ego construction, right? Basically, right? How our egos are constructed. Now I'm constructing my ego from this place of, let's call it fear versus versus love, right? I am now constructing my ego from that place of anger, fear, doubt. Like this is how my perception is being formed, right? So therefore, that's how I see the world, right? And then therefore, that's what I expect, I attract, I then manifest that experience into my life and reaffirm it. Yep. See, this is who I am. Yep. You are who you are, because these things always happen to me.
Absolutely. Because you're building a biology to expect it. Yep. Every cell receptor site is efficient.
So this makes sense. So we don't go too far. I'm going to cut you off, Ken. I apologize because I know us. Like, I'm just telling you, if anybody's listening out there, we don't have 30-minute, 45-minute, hour coffee meetups. We have to set a timer for 3 hours. I'm like, I tell my wife, I'm going to go have coffee with Ken. She's like, I'll see you tonight.
See you at dinner. Maybe.
Maybe. Yeah, we've had some incredible times. So yeah, neither of us are going to stop. We have to have something we have to go do afterwards. A lot of times, actually, this is true. A lot of times I'll actually schedule something intentionally after when we're going to meet. So I have to leave, right? Because I know otherwise our conversation is going to. And so here, I'm going to come back. I'm going to come back to this. Number one, you said awareness, right? Awareness. So how do I practice or build this awareness to be able then to shift how I am living in a way that's conditioning my body into an experience I don't want to have. Therefore, then being able to change how I'm living to have a future experience I do want to have. Fundamentally, this blew my mind when I first learned this, to go, okay, well then what do I need to do to feel open, to feel expansive, to feel free, right? And even with one of my clients currently right now, younger client, we're just getting started, but she connected some dots right out of the gate. And she's like, I just want to feel free. I'm like, go ahead then. What makes you feel free? She goes, when I smile, I feel free. I'm like, go ahead then, smile. She starts smiling, starts laughing. And I said, keep going, keep smiling. We start laughing. We're both giggling. And then I'm like, look around. What else makes you feel free? She looks outside. She's like, that tree, nature, that dog over there makes me feel free. I'm like, yeah. So now her assignment through the week is for her to send me 3 glimpses of goodness that make her feel free. Right. So every day she's sending me a message saying these things made me. And so, based upon what I taught her fundamentally, and then based upon what I now know, and what you're talking about here is the more she just allows herself to feel free, the more her conditioning her body to feel free. Therefore, she'll then find more ways to feel free in the future. And her experience will be more of freedom than of imprisonment or of lack of control and these things. Right. And what if it's just that simple?
Yep.
What if it's just that simple to just get out of the program? And I'm not saying it's easy. Now, don't get simple confused with easy, right? But simple to say, get out, look up, enjoy the sunshine, right? Open yourself up and smile. This is what a gratitude practice does fundamentally, right?
This awareness piece you're talking about. So this is our muscle. It's a muscle that you build, no different than a muscle, your bicep or any other part of your body. It's a muscle, and we can build an awareness, but it takes some diligence. And there's a simple hack to increasing awareness, because I mentioned the reticular activating system. This is that 400 billion bits of information per second. And our awareness is a small component of that. But there's certain hacks that we have that influence that. And part of that nervous system is the vagus nerve. This is information from the body to the brain. And then the brain reaffirms certain feelings and then sends a signal back to the body to feel, and the body feels, the feeling feeds the thought feels the feeling, and it's a cycle. But here's where the hack comes in. The thing that you have control over is your breath. And the moment that you decide to put your awareness on your breath, and you allow that to be the only interface with your awareness or your mind, whatever you want to call it, and the body, allow that to be the interface, the awareness piece. And you start to take every aspect of that breath in as just an observation. And we start to lose all other things. All other stuff goes away. And we can start to practice an elongated breath. We can start to practice all kinds of different type of breathing techniques. And when you elongate that breath, one of the things that the fight or flight or the sympathetic nervous system needs to be in that condition is a short, rapid breath, really short and rapid. It needs that. But you elongate that. Now that again, we're speaking right to the vagal tone of the body, the vagus nerve. This is biology, folks. This is just science. I mean, this is your hack. Everybody has it. You don't have to be a guru or a scientist or a PhD.
And it's free.
It's free. It's free. And it's like everybody has it. So what do? You elongate that breath. You spend time in its awareness. And the body will shift from sympathetic to parasympathetic, from fight or flight to rest and digest. And your energy that's liberated from that fight or flight consumption becomes enormous. And now you have energy for healing. And the body, what's healing? I'm not talking about a wound on your skin. I'm talking about limitations in your emotions, in your cell biology. And to the tune of 800,000 cells per second, you become more happy, more joyful.
Yeah. And I want to just put this as a pin in our conversation. In my own experience, as I began to learn this, because once I understood the power of the breath, like I went all the way down the rabbit hole, right? You know, I did, right? With yoga instructor or certification and oxygen advantage and everything else, right? I mean, I went down the rabbit hole, and I still have a good friend of mine, Drew, he'll be on the show, as he's a yoga therapist and qigong master and all kinds of different things. Him and I communicate constantly about breath work and qigong and all kinds of different things. Anyway, when I started to do this and I started to be able to regulate and I started to be able to shift my state based upon being in control of my breath and learning how to breathe properly and lengthening that exhale, like you're talking about, doing these type of things, understanding how to massage that vagus nerve, right? The place I found myself in is actually our natural home of safety and security, right? What I would consider to be in our place of being green. If you look at a stoplight, like red is sympathetic fight or flight, even to the point where you're like frozen. Yellow is danger and you're ready to flee or to fight, right? But red is like potentially even paralyzed, like freeze. Yellow is fight or flight, right? And then green is safe. It's beaming and gleaming. Okay. Now, most of us live in the yellow majority of the time, and we get comfortable there. We get to be not comfortable maybe, but known. It's known to us. It's conditioned into us. So it can actually feel like a threat to go from yellow to green, to go to a place of feeling safe and secure, to go from your sympathetic to your parasympathetic. And we're not just one or the other. It's a spectrum, right? But to be leaning more towards that parasympathetic rest and digest, that place of calm and recouping and whatever words you want to use, tranquility, whatever you want to use, can actually feel uncomfortable. And it did to me at first. Like, it's not safe to be here. I got to go do something. I got to, you know what I mean? And I've seen clients do that where it's like, this is great, but aren't I supposed to be out in the world striving, achieving, pushing, overcoming? Right? You know what I mean? Where it can actually feel unsafe because, again, going back to what we said earlier, the brain processes anything as what is feeling like unknown as a threat. So it can even tell you that the place we're supposed to be as human beings is in this place of gleaming and beaming green when there isn't a imposed threat around us, can feel uncomfortable enough to where it feels like it's not safe. Right. Because the majority of things that make us feel unsafe is honestly social rejection. You know, we don't have the physical component is not where our biology comes from, is to keep us safe physically. But now it's a social thing. You know, it's a social rejection that causes our nervous system to be alarmed more than anything else. So just as a note, as a pin in this conversation to say, as you begin to navigate and build this awareness, and maybe it's a breath practice in a seated position where you're just focused on your breath. And for a lot of meditative progressions, this is where it starts, right? Yep. To be aware of your breath, to sit with it, to watch it, to be, to not have to change it in any way, shape, or form. And then you start to control your breath and different things and guide it and all kinds of pieces. But
Yeah.
It might feel uncomfortable. And most likely it will.
Yeah, because you're supposed to be doing something in that moment. Like you said, you feel like the body says, I'm used to at this time, wait a minute, it's 8:00 in the morning. At this time, I'm usually in traffic. I'm usually mad. I'm usually upset. I'm usually stressed out. And the body goes, where's my adrenaline rush? Where's my feeling? Why are these receptor sites are not being fed? And so the body starts to find things to be stressed out about. Right. Yeah. And so
because certain things that are being released to the body is actually addicted to it.
We are so aware of the circadian rhythm. You don't need to look at your watch or the clock to know that it's noon or that it's evening or it's morning. The circadian rhythm, the optic nerve, takes in this content of light or dark. And even though we are turning the lights on and off, this artificial light, even though we still know there's a knowing part, even if you go to a different time zone, there's a knowing, that knows when it's light or dark, and our understanding about what we should be doing in that moment. How many people are programmed to be hungry at noon? How many people are programmed to be hungry at 5:00?
You eat just because it's lunchtime.
Yeah, you eat because it's lunchtime, right? Either the body's expressing the hunger or the mind is expressing the action.
Yeah,
I'm just gonna go eat. I'm not hungry, but I'm gonna go eat.
Yeah. No, so questioning everything is this present moment awareness. So give me one tool. And then I'm going to ask you, we're going to try to wrap this up because we've been going, and we'll come back and continue this conversation. This is just the beginning. What's one thing I can do to build this? Like you said the breath, but what does that look like?
Oh my gosh. I'm going to tell you one.
I'm your client. Let's go back to day one. And you told me, all right, Ryan, here's where to start.
And I told you something. I asked you a question. I said, do you struggle more with the thoughts in your mind or the feelings in your body? And that question is fundamental because people have different struggles. And if they have a struggle, most people, a lot of people will tell me the mind, right?
Thoughts, yeah.
A lot of chatter, a lot of stuff going on in chatter. Others tell me, and it's interesting, the demographic is women may have more challenges with emotion in the body because they tend to be more aware and they're willing to express that. Men, not so much. But still, what's the question? Fundamental question. Do you struggle more with the thoughts in your mind or the feelings in your body? Which drives you and controls you? And if the answer is the mind, and I normally ask this question to the person, and then I don't tell them the solution to the second question until the first action is complete, because both are relative, but there's one that's more influential than the other. And if one struggles more with the thoughts in the mind, I recommend a book, a very specific book. And I told you what that book was. And I said, I'll see you when you're done. 2 days later, maybe 3 days later, you come back. Okay, what's next? What's next?
Today, one of my favorite books. What is it? What's the book, Ken? What's the book?
It's Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry.
No, I was going to say, wait a minute. Isn't it The Untethered Soul?
I jumped ahead. I'm sorry. The mind is The Untethered Soul by Michael Singer. Untethered Soul by Michael Singer. If you want to understand the mind and that inner roommate, that's your resource. And so 3 days later, Ryan comes back and says, okay, what's next? I said, now we're going to address the other part, which is the body or the emotional code, the codes that happens within the body. And if that's the first answer, it doesn't matter either way. When we're talking about the body, I recommend another book. And that book is Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself by Dr. Joe Dispenza. And then I say, see you later, right? 3 days later, here's Ryan. What's next? so those are the fundamental.
I don't know if it was quite 3 days with Breaking the Habit. I think I took a week to read that one. But,
it was a bit. But
I was 2 to 3 books a week back in those days. And,
yeah.
And then go back and study them. So
and unpack the content so that you understand it. And so, but that's the fundamental part. Even if you just read through it, you get understanding, and then we come back, we reconverse. Your awareness is different. It's fundamentally different. But remember what you said, it's not what you know, but what you don't know is kind of the focus. Now, all of a sudden, you know something new. And the moment you do know something new, things change. And here's why. It's because information leads to transformation. And we can't build a new mind with the same one that created the current one. It will not work. Einstein himself said, that the mind who created the problem is not the mind that will solve it. Mm. And it requires a new mind. And what creates a new mind is new understanding, new knowledge.
I would even say, like, there's a handful of books. There's about 6 or 8 of them that I read every year that I just go back through. And sometimes I have them on audio, so I might just listen to them.
Yeah.
And it's amazing. It's amazing to me. Like, I didn't catch that the first time, like, or even close. Like, Untethered Soul is one of them where I'm like, that was a fantastic book. It changed my life, saved my life. Like, legitimate. That was to this day. I love that book. When I listened to it 6 months ago, I was like, my mind was blown all over again. Just this way deeper awareness of the connection to the witness and just really knowing things at a whole nother level. Like, I can't wait to listen to it again a year from now and be like, oh my goodness, how did I miss that a year ago or 2 years ago? Right. So I love it, Ken. So those 2 books, let's put those in the notes and make sure that people know. I'll maybe even do a little post about those 2 books. What is it right now? Because like I said, we can keep going forever, but what is it right now that's like just up front for you? Like, what are you working on right now? What's different? What's new? What are you up to?
Well, right now, our next level is always our best level, right? That's just the key. I mean, we're always building the next self, and the next self is the best self. It supersedes the one that's current. And so that's always what I'm doing is developing the next self. And right now I'm actually working on using very specific energy influences to change the recovery protocol, to literally rewrite that genetic code. Remember, I said 97% of that code is adaptive, reading its environment. So what if I'm in the environment of an exercise program, maybe training for an event, or maybe just trying to get outside of my current physical condition, weight loss, muscle mass, whatever it is, doesn't matter. We're trying to move from one state to another. The next self is the best self. So right now I'm hacking that adaptive gene. I'm actually imprinting very specific content, very specific frequencies around the nutritional signals, the bioavailability of what's in my body. I can shift the cell receptor sites. We're shifting cell receptor sites to make ingestion of what we're taking in more bioavailable to the body. Again, what's the struggle in our world? The mass production of food has reduced the nutrient content. So we're eating either eating more, or we're growing our own food, which is ultimately the best way. Or we're trying to figure out ways to down-regulate stress response so the body can actually increase uptake of the content. It's all done at the energetic level. So if I'm currently working on protocols for hacking more efficiently into that 97% of the adaptive gene, and then just testing the results. I have a year-long study I'm working with. I'm also working with Dr. Joe as a participant within this year-long study that's also proving the expression of very specific proteins within my body because of a state that I maintain. And they just published a paper. Dr. Joe and the research team just published a paper on the expression of a very specific new protein that they found based on meditators and their practice. And it's a genetic code. It's a protein that is, and I will say it publicly because it's published, that creates a resistance to COVID, creates a resistance to the common cold, creates a resistance to flu, creates a resistance to contaminants. The body becomes its own internal army, its own internal structure of armor. And your immune system just goes crazy. We don't get sick anymore, right? I mean, Ryan, when was the last time you were sick?
Well, sick from
sick from a virus versus sick from a detox is two different things.
Okay. No, it's very rare. It's super rare.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, so that's what I'm working on right now. Some pretty cool bleeding edge, not cutting edge, bleeding edge science. I was a speaker at the biohacking conference in Miami earlier last year, I guess, or earlier this year. And the technology that's available out there is phenomenal. It's phenomenal what we can do today. And why not use it, right? We've got it. It's just that one of the fundamental principles when it comes to using technology, folks, that whatever you're engaged in, is number one, number one, does it ask permission of the body? When you're trying to heal the body, it needs, whatever you're using needs to have permission of the body. And the body needs to be a very integrated part of the healing equation. It's doing it. You're not. The body's doing it. Yeah. And how many times do you ask, the body asks permission or gets permission for an injection, right? Right. How many times?
That sounds like a rabbit hole.
I'm not going down that.
Okay. I'm just going to say, I want to know what that looks like for your body to give permission to heal. Sounds like, right. So maybe we'll make that another conversation.
Make that another podcast.
So how do people find you, Ken? They're interested to hear more about, they're intrigued, they're excited, they're curious about everything that you're saying. How can someone connect with you? Where do they find you?
The best way, the simplest way is just send me an email. Send me an email. And it's a really hard name to remember. My name is Ken Close. So kenrclose@gmail.com. It's super complicated, I know. But KENRCLOSE@gmail.com. That's the best way to get me in, and just shoot me a note saying I am interested, and we'll go down that rabbit hole. Right. And the thing is
I'm just going to warn you. You stick your head down that rabbit hole. It's deep.
There is no cap. There's no cap.
There's no cap to it, but it's a journey of a lifetime. So
right now, I also tell you, and we talked about a couple of books. I'm actually reading this book right now. It's called The Second Path by Marcus Schmieke.
Life in the information field. Okay.
Yeah. Right. And you can't actually get this in the United States, but I'm working on a portal in which people can. Marcus Schmieke is a quantum physicist / monk. He's written many, many books. He is one of the top scientists in Germany. Just a phenomenal man and very, very tuned in to contribution to our world. And the second path is kind of one of those things about typically we're born into this world. We forget what our purpose is, and then we become of this world. Right. And then there's a series of relearning somewhere along the line when we wake up and shift and whatever. And so that's the second path. The second path is that we finally find this information field or this source or this divine energy, and we tap into it. And then watch out, buckle up. Right, brother?
It's going to be a ride. Yep. We're going to keep going. We're going to keep going. We're going to keep learning. We're going to keep growing and evolving and adapting. So I appreciate you so much, Ken. All the years of mentorship, friendship, and just so looking forward to everything that we're either co-creating or just watching you do what you do and just rooting you on from the sidelines too. So I highly recommend if anybody is like intrigued to lean in, reach out, and just experience more of your incredible wealth of knowledge. And so we are going to wrap it up here today. And just a takeaway is to get started with the simplest component of breath awareness, right? Just to become aware of and to ask yourself a very simple question, like, are you ready? Are you willing to figure out what you don't know? And just start questioning things, start questioning your habits, start questioning your beliefs, start questioning your thoughts. And, that's one of the things that I ask my clients, like very first session usually is to say, like, do you believe everything you think? And a lot of times they're like, some say, yeah, shouldn't I? I'm like, no, you shouldn't. Please don't. That sounds like a miserable experience. So, okay. Anyway, thank you, Ken, so much. And we're going to wrap this up. Thank you so much for listening. And we'll see you soon on the next podcast.
My pleasure, brother. Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening. Remember, leaders go first. Alignment matters. And the environment that you create is the legacy you'll leave. We'll see you on the next episode.